Welcome, everyone. For those I haven't had the joy of speaking with or learning with, I'm Rabbi Sarah Mulhern, and I have the great honor of being a member of the North American Hartman faculty and teaching staff, and I also run our programs for rabbinical students. So I hope we'll get to speak and get to know each other at some point. And I'm excited to move into this last moment together for learning as an opportunity to really get yet another layer on Derech Eretz. Because maybe you'll agree or you'll disagree, but my sense is that up until now, when we've been thinking about what is Derech Eretz and how do we apply it in our lives, we have mostly been speaking about Derech Eretz in the realms of the social and the realms of the political. And so today we want to turn our attention to the spiritual life and think about the relationship between Derech Eretz and the spiritual. And to lead us in that conversation, I'm very honored to introduce two of my colleagues and teachers, Rabbis Tamar Elad Appelbaum and Dani Segal, who are both spiritual practitioners in their own rights, committed humans of Derech Eretz, although they would not want me to say that, leaders of spiritual communities, teachers of young rabbis, and important figures in the movement to revive spirituality for non-Orthodox Jews in Israel. And to introduce them separately, Tamar is the founder and the rabbi of Kilat Zion, which is a beautiful prayer community in Jerusalem that you should all visit. She's also one of the co-founders of the Beit Midrash for Israeli rabbis here at Hartman. And this isn't even in the printed bio, so I feel I'm letting you in on a secret. She has recently published a beautiful commentary to Pirkei Avot, to the ethics of our fathers, which was very helpful to me in my teaching this year, and which you should all run out and buy, since if Alana can recommend books, so can I. Go buy it right now. Dani is the co-director of the Beit Midrash for Israeli rabbis, which I know you've heard somewhat about, but it's really one of the programs here at Hartman that I'm the most proud of, in which we train Israelis across the political and religious spectrum to be rabbis for all of Am Yisrael. It's really, I think, very moving. He is also a community rabbi, a teacher of Torah, a founder of Midrashet in Prat, which is an educational institution for Israeli youth before and after the army. And also he is a specialist in family and couples counseling and runs retreats in the desert for married couples, which I only wish my Hebrew was good enough to benefit from. So I think they will have a lot of wisdom to share with us today. And so I really want to just start by getting a sense of the lay of the land. We are the inheritors of a tradition which often speaks about mitzvot ben adam l'makom and mitzvot ben adam l'chaveiro, the laws which govern the practice between a person and their creator, or the spiritual realm, and the laws which govern practice between a human and her fellow, or the interpersonal ethical. And we sometimes talk about them as if they are distinct categories. So I'm hoping we can a little bit trouble that. And so I'll just ask to start by asking simply, how do you think about the relationship between the ethical and the spiritual?
Tov, Boker Tov. It's a pleasure to be here, and I've had the privilege of learning from and with a lot of you over the past week, so it's a pleasure to be here again. When I think of Musar, or Derech Eretz, always comes to my mind the first chapter of Mesilat Yesharim, a famous book by Rabbi Moshe Chaim Luzzatto, The Path of the Just. What are we supposed to learn to be better people? And in his opening, he says, everything I'm going to write, we all know. And I'm just here to remind us again, because people put this aside, either because it's not considered something important enough to study. I was so proud that at Hartman, we took this week and a half, or we took this program to study Derech Eretz, to say this is important enough to study. And because we forget. And I think both those things are very true when it comes to Derech Eretz. The question you raised, I think, is not simple for a lot of us, because many of us categorize. And we say, okay, Derech Eretz is being a mensch. It's how you're supposed to behave, but being a scholar, or learning Torah, or spirituality, that's something else. And then unfortunately, we can see people who have one and don't have the other. And it's even accepted. Okay, she's a great Torah scholar, or he's a great rabbi, but we've already used to not expecting Derech Eretz. And I think the connection is strong on both sides, one which is clear to me and the other which maybe we can explore. One is, there's no spirituality without Derech Eretz. I think that's the first Mishnah in the oral Torah that we studied together this week. The Mishnah in Brachot says, "Meimatai korin Shema be'arvin." When can you start reciting the Shema? And then it says, "Mishah she'kohanim nichasim lechol betrumatam." When the Kohanim has started eating their supper. The next page in the Talmud will say, why Kohanim? What about the poor people? Maybe they haven't eaten their supper yet. What about other people? And we'll go on to say, when can we recite Shema? When everybody's had their dinner. When the day is over and we're sure that everybody has had something to eat, then we can come to the Kadosh Baruch Hu, then we can face God and say, okay, we want to recite Shema. The Talmud a few pages later will ask, when can you recite Shema in the morning? And it will say, "Misheyakir et chavero akarov elav," when you can recognize your friend. If you said good morning to someone, if you've seen that they're okay, and that they're here, that they came to shul this morning, then you can turn to the Kadosh Baruch Hu. Then our spiritual life begins. Before davening, we're supposed to give tzedakah. So somebody walks around with a tzedakah box. Because it's clear to us, "Ani betzedek echezeh panecha." If we've done the right thing, now we can move on to the spiritual. So I think it's very clear in Jewish law that there's a basic standing point or koma level that we need to get to before we move on to the spiritual. What's interesting to think, I think, is the opposite. Where does the spiritual benefit the Derech Eretz? Is it not enough just to be a person? Where does Torah come into the game? Where does spirituality come in? And if you look at simple things, there's kabed et avicha ve'et imecha. We're supposed to honor our parents. Where does the Torah give which is extra? Where do we push ourselves another limit? I was thinking this morning about Hashavat Aveda, which maybe we'll talk about. I know Tamar talks about a lot. It's a mitzvah we both, I think, are very close to. Hashavat Aveda in English, Hashavat Aveda. Returning something which was lost. And in halacha, even Maimonides does this, and later on in Chassidut, it's taken to such a wider or further extent. So basic Derech Eretz will say, don't take something which is not yours, and don't steal. And then we'll even say, even if there's something lying in the street, then don't touch it. It might not be yours. I think the spirituality or ruchaniyut or Torah will say, we want to take Derech Eretz a bit further. If there's something lying in the street, we want you to pick it up and find who lost it. Chassidut will say, it's not only if there's a wallet there, or if it's a notebook that somebody lost. They'll say, the Sfat Emet, the Gerer Rebbe will read it this way, with this I'll finish. He'll say, Ki tir'eh shor achicha, shor is an ox. So he'll say not shor, he'll read it differently, shur. What if he lost his glands? What if she lost her happiness in life? What if he's lost his way? I think Torah wants to take Derech Eretz to a further level and say it's not just about behaving justly with others. It's not just about tzedek. Musar, Derech Eretz, has another level where we want to take things. And I think putting those together has a lot to benefit in the world of spirituality and the study of Torah, and also maybe something to add to Derech Eretz.
Toda. Toda. First, I want to say how beautiful it is. I think that the word Yehudi, Jew, comes from Toda. And I think that's the Derech Eretz that we're talking about this morning. We're talking about the Derech Eretz of being able to be full of gratitude towards something that is not me. Derech Eretz is all about acknowledging that there's something besides me around here. Derech Eretz starts with acknowledging that there's a derech, there's a road, and there's an eretz, there's a context, and I need to be part of the context. The first thing I want to say is that for me, Derech Eretz is completely about mitzvot ben adam lamakom and not mitzvot ben adam lechavero. So I know that I understand that you spoke about it, so I can use these terms. I want to say why. First, I want to say that the Torah itself does this Derech Eretz. Torah does not start the story with Torah. We don't start the story of Torah with Ma'amad Har Sinai, with standing at Sinai. We start the story of Torah by telling that there were humans who needed to go through a journey, Derech Eretz, here on this land, on this earth, with God before receiving Torah. So Derech Eretz Kadma la Torah means that before receiving Torah, there was a history. There is a history of connection between Hashem and humanity. And that's a description of the Torah. Derech Eretz Kadma lekabbalat Torah. So Torah begins with Derech Eretz. And not only Torah begins with Derech Eretz, but creation begins with Derech Eretz. When Hashem, I'm speaking in very blunt terms that do not relate at all to the Kadosh Baruch Hu. But Hashem makes way for Derech Eretz on the expense of, as if we could say, on the expense of itself. So Derech Eretz Kivyachol is the first thing that Hashem does. The first thing that God does is to make way for something that is not itself, not godliness, but for us. So Derech Eretz creates and makes way for everything we know to happen. And that is why Rabbi Tzadok HaKohen Lublin says that the biggest sin that changed the course of history was a sin of Derech Eretz. Because God made place for man, Derech Eretz, and then men came into Gan Eden and received permission to eat from everything besides one thing, Etz Hadat Tov Vara, one tree, the tree of knowledge. And Rabbi Tzadok HaKohen Lublin said, what was the sin? The sin was that Adam and Chava humiliated all the other trees. They did not commit Derech Eretz. Everything about the world was supposed to be Derech Eretz. Derech Eretz is not to single out one tree and to say, oh, that's the tree of knowledge. I prefer that above anything. And it says about Chava that she thought that tree specifically was better than any other. And Rabbi Tzadok HaKohen Lublin said she humiliated every other tree in that garden. So the sin was that Hashem performed Derech Eretz, and that man and Chava and Adam, humankind, were not able to perform Derech Eretz as Hashem believed they could and they should. They put themselves first, their interests first, their ability to see something that it might be good or even better for them first. And since then, Torah is all about Chaim. The Sfat Emet that the Rav Dani now spoke of, he says that everything we try to do is to go back from Etz Hadat, from that mistake, to Etz HaChaim, to the tree of life. What's Etz HaChaim? Chaim is life. Chaim is in the plural. You can't say Chaim in the singular. Chaim, nachon? It's in the plural. Chaim is about respecting everything around us and honoring and dignifying everything around us before we dignify ourselves, to make for that a place. And so Torah comes in order to enable us to go back to the Garden of Eden and see kindness and goodness and beauty in anything we meet. That is Derech Eretz, and it's before anything. That is what we need to learn from Hashem. So for me, Derech Eretz is mitzvot ben adam lamakom. It's walking around the world and giving way always to anything that I see in front of me. That is the beauty, to be able to see it, to be able to give it the essence and to see in it the essence of everything that I have to honor in this world. And so to me, this dichotomy that many of us create between mitzvot ben adam lechavero, which presumes that within it Derech Eretz resides, and mitzvot ben adam lamakom, which presumes that there is something, a different kind of world, is not a dichotomy I can accept at all. Derech Eretz kadma la Torah, to me, was said by God, was created by God. That is the way God leads this world. And so there cannot be a world in which, in the name of Torah, we dishonor the law, the first law of Derech Eretz.
So I want to ask you to speak personally, maybe with some vulnerability, about your own spiritual lives. And in particular, that I know that you are both for many years on spiritual journeys and serious about your spiritual practice. And I wonder if you would share with us as a group the ways in which that work, that avodah, shores up, supports, enriches the path of behaving with Derech Eretz. And if whether there are maybe some conflicts or some moments where sometimes you feel a tension, also to share some of those pieces.
I have two thoughts. One, I wanted to share a thought about what you said. It's interesting. What? Sorry. A short thought about Etz HaChaim and Etz HaDat. That part of Derech Eretz, I think, is realizing that not everything is here for you. And the Rashar Hirsch has a reading of Etz HaDat that when Chava looked at the tree, she didn't even see the tree. She just saw what's in it for her. He takes two verses, he puts them next to each other. And the verse in Hebrew says, Vatere Aisha, Kitov ha'etz lema'achal. The kitov becomes before the tree. This is good for me. Kitov ha'etz lema'achal. And he gives another verse when Moshe Rabbeinu, when his mother is looking at him, it says, Vatere et hayeled, she saw the child, kitov hu. Not Vatere kitov hayeled. Not, oh, hey, I can eat this child. Not Vatere kitov hayeled, Vatere et hayeled. Are we, when we're walking around the world, are we seeing what's there and acknowledging it and giving room? Or are we seeing ourselves? I think part of a spiritual journey is also in relationship with the Kadosh Baruch Hu, with God, and also walking around the world and seeing that there's many, many others. I want to say that there's a kind of a contradiction in talking about a spiritual journey in Derech Eretz. There's a very nice passage in the Talmud where they're talking about modesty. And one of the sages say there's no modest people left in this world anymore. And then there's somebody named Rabbi Yossi who gets up and says, hey, there's me. How could you say there's no modesty in this world anymore? I think in many ways speaking about or teaching Derech Eretz is problematic because you don't want to be Rabbi Yossi. So I'll give a thought about personally practicing or thinking Derech Eretz. Maybe I'll continue that Sfat Emet. The Ger Rebbe. Ger is the biggest Chassidut in Europe before the Holocaust. It's a small town just outside Warsaw. And that's where the Ger Rebbe lives and gives his talks to tens of thousands of believers. And when he discusses Hashavat Avedah, he speaks about the term that the Torah uses, Hashev tashivem le'achicha. You should return these to somebody else. But the Torah says, Hashev tashivem, return and return again. And he said he has two beautiful insights, which I think are very important when you're trying to think of your personal Derech Eretz and how you want to practice it and how maybe hopefully it could pass on if you succeed. And one is, he says, when you see somebody doing something wrong, the first thing you need to know is you're probably lacking in the same thing. He quotes that from the Baal Shem Tov. He says that the Baal Shem Tov has taught us. If I see something in this world, it jumped out because I have that problem. So if your 15-year-old, I'm sorry for you who don't have teenagers at the moment, but if your 15-year-old, her room is messy, very messy, you can't walk in, okay? And you don't want to walk in. Tov, lo meshane, this is not the topic at the moment. He says, if something jumped out, then think about yourself for a second. What things, or if she's speaking in a certain manner, if something, what does that have to do with you? Why did you see that? But then the second thing he says is, Hashev teshivem le'achicha. If you want to help her, you have two options. One, say, clean up your room. The other is to think for a second, realize that your room is probably very messy, and go clean it up. And if you do the work, then you'll be able to help others. I think also personally and also as a rabbi leading a community, you can either get up and say, this is what you need to do as a community. That doesn't always work. The second is to be a dukma ishit. Try and be an example. I think that that's something we need to aspire to, but that doesn't always work either. We're not perfect. We can't always exemplify everything that we're trying to teach. What we can exemplify is trying to work on what we need to do. And I think personal Derech Eretz is Hashev Teshivem. Our way to return things to other people is to do our Hashev, to be doing our work, and to be an example of work. When the Kadosh Baruch Hu wants us to be good people, the Torah says, the Midrash will say, Mahu rachum af ata rachum. If he's full of mercy, you should be full of mercy. If he went to visit Moshe when he was sick, you should go visit sick people. He's not perfect, he's doing his work. And we're supposed to be looking up at someone who's always changing. In the Torah, throughout the Tanakh, the Kadosh Baruch Hu is always learning and doing things differently. We're supposed to be learning and trying to improve our ways. And hopefully if we do that personal work, which for me is a long, long spiritual journey, maybe that could be also a lesson to others, or I think that's a good way to conduct ourselves in this world for us, and also as people who want to teach something in this world.
So I want to start by saying that Derech Eretz means that it's not an algorithm, that it takes a whole lifetime for me. Now I'm going to speak in a very, very personal matter. It takes a whole lifetime for me to work on myself. And I don't expect that after I understood something, I'm going to understand it again the day after or the moment after. I actually know that this is part of revelation. That part of revelation is that the moment it happens, it already starts to slip away from me without me even noticing. And I have to start all over again. I want to say that Derech Eretz is a commitment to say the truth to myself, that I have to work on myself all the time. And I want to say two things that I've been understanding. The first, I come from an Orthodox background in my childhood, and I can tell you that I always read the way I read Torah or Mesilat Yesharim or all these Musar books that speak about, the righteous way of behaving, was that there is a way, and I tried to be that, to go there. And I missed out on something very, very important, and that was me. I never did a diagnose of who I am and all my flaws. And I think there's something very problematic in the way we learn Torah, which for a long time is we call it Olam HaAtzilut. We read Torah in a world that has no ego, no character, in a perfect world. But my world is not perfect. I cannot look at the algorithm of how we have to give tzedakah and how we have to behave as if I'm not connected to it. It's me dealing with all these issues and all these questions. And so one of the things that I understood within life, within time, is that I needed to be able to have a diagnose, a truthful diagnose, spiritual, emotional diagnose of my flaws. And until I cannot do that, I have no starting point. This is da me'ain bata ule'an ata holich. Know where you come from. I need to know where I come from. And included in that is understanding that I want to be here, that I was destined to be here with all my flaws. There's room in this world for me as I am. And it's also accepting the fact that Hashem made Hamakom. That's one of the beautiful names of Hashem, that created space. Hashem created space for me to be here and work on all those flaws, but I must diagnose myself. And a while ago, Dani and I met someone incredible who went through a very difficult journey, but he opened the whole journey by saying, I have 59 flaws. And I said, I want to be him when I'm big, when I'm adult. I want to be able to come to a group and say, these are my flaws, and I've been working on them all my life. And I feel that we can't learn Torah without stating and putting our character with all its beauty and all its problematics in the middle, and then to start drawing a line between where we want to be and who we are right now, and do it over and over again. And many times I do it on my birthday. I think this is a gift and a commitment. I did not come here to rejoice life only. I came here to work. Derech Eretz is taming ourselves to become the person we could be, to see within myself and to carve from within myself the best of my character. Because I am not always the best of my character. And I know when it happens. And I need to work, and my work plan, my spiritual work plan, has to know what my tendencies are, what I do when I'm hurt, what I do when I'm vulnerable, how I react, who are the people I react to, and slowly try to manifest my understanding of Torah together with my understanding of myself. And I think that it's one of the most beautiful perushim. Rabbi Nachman Breslav, he writes in his book, it's called Sefer Aleph Beit. And it's really Sefer HaMidot. It's really the book of virtues, but he does not call it Sefer HaMidot. His descendants, his students, his disciples called it Sefer HaMidot. He called it Sefer Aleph Beit. This is my Aleph Beit. I need to learn my vocabulary, my tendencies. And I want to even say, when I said the word I, it's not only myself. It's so many things that I've inherited from my parents and my grandparents, and so many patterns that came to me. And I have all of those things inside me, and I need a lot of time to be able to reflect, and not only to speak about the worthy, but also to speak about me. So for me, Rabbi Nachman, when he says and calls his book Sefer Aleph Bet, he tells me, I'm 43. And he says, you've learned how to read and how to write, and Metsuyan, that's great. But now go to the beginning and learn from the beginning your Aleph Bet. And try to understand your dictation and vocabulary and understand all your tendency. And then work between the two Aleph Bet. The one that takes you there and the one where you are right now. And I think this work, many times I say to myself and to people, it's like, being in a big ship. You're in the wind, and you're in the air, and you're in the sun. And you stand there and you see the big, beautiful mifrasim. How do you say mifrasim? Sails in the ship. And you know that you have to every day work on these sails and really, really make sure that they work well. And you have to tame them. And that is the reason why I do all the mitzvot. I think that we have complete freedom to become the best of ourselves. We have complete freedom. We are not living in a fatal world. I do not have to die the way I was born, or the way I was when I was 16, or the way I am right now. I have all the time that I have received from God to become the best of myself, and I can do it every day. I can do it now, working right now with you on things that I need to work, right now. And I want to use this time to be a free human being, meaning to use this ability of mine to look at myself, to look at the ideal, and to create something better out of this sincerity. So I want to say that for me, mitzvot, like tefillin, which does not sound like mitzvot ben adam lachavero, nachon? Tefillin, what does it have to do with Derech Eretz? Tefillin is standing up in the morning, and after you said the word modeh ani, that the ani, that I, come only after my ability to say modeh. Gratitude. Todah. Then I put on tefillin, which tame me, as if I were a musical instrument. And they say, remember who you want to be. So you'll now go out in the street and you'll meet people, and someone will tell you something, and you'll think it's the most amazing thing. Remember to put it in context. Remember to be cautious. Remember to give him place to explore what he wanted. Don't take, don't take over. On the contrary, make sure to take a step back. This is what God did, and you do it too. Give space, give place for people to grow, for people to err, to make mistakes and errors. Make sure you can grow all the time. And for me, the basis of this world is sincerity. And the basis of, by the way, of religious life, spiritual life, a Jewish life is sincerity. We have to be able to say our spiritual journeys and biographies through our sincerity, meaning through all the mistakes we did and we do, through all the beautiful things we did and we do, and slowly pave our road through the mitzvot, and through mitzvot שבין אדם למקום ובין אדם לחברו, every day from the beginning, to get to that place and to know that we're free to be there, to get there, to be that person we want to be.
So I want to ask one more question, and then we'll open the conversation, which is to really widen the lens from this personal focus to a focus on community. So I'll ask two questions, and you can each maybe take one, which is that you are both leaders of spiritual communities. So how do you do the work from that position of building communities that are both communities of the Spirit and communities of Derech Eretz? And you are also both educators of young rabbis. So how do you foster and educate young rabbis to become people who are both of great spiritual depth and also of great moral excellence? And maybe in terms of this group that has come together, if you can share a thought about how community leaders can support those pieces of the rabbinic work.
I think for me the first thing is to admit that I'm working on it all the time. I think one of the problems is that teachers, at least the ones I knew when I was young, spoke about the world and the character as if they already know. And it always bothered me. I always felt there's a problem, like Dani taught us, there's a big problem to say, it's me, I'm the one who's modest here. It's me, I don't want to live in a world in which the teachers are pillars. I want to live in a world where everyone struggles. I want my teachers to tell me about their struggles. I want us to be able to share it. That's wisdom. There's no one person who holds that wisdom. We all share it and help each other. Hashavat Avedah, the law of returning lost property, is all about the fact that it's not me who finds my lost property. It's only Arav Sarah or Arav Dani who will find my lost property for me. So the world is all about dialogue. And we all help each other in the course of this journey. So I cannot come to any community or Bet Midrash to tell them how they should look like because I know. It contradicts everything that we believe in. A rabbi works with all his fellow people on midot. We are doing the Sefer Aleph Bet. That's what we do. That's why we gather every time. So I'll just give you two examples. The first is that it's important for me to tell people, either if it's in private with students in the rabbinic school or in the community, it's important for me to say that I did a mistake. If I can't say that, how can I grow and how can we create an environment and an atmosphere, a spiritual, Jewish, serious atmosphere in which people can make some kind of a journey? So the first is to be able to create a language within the community that is a language that speaks of who we really are and to a language that learns all the time. And I think this is what Rabban Yochanan ben Zakkai said to his pupils in Masechet Avot. He said, "Tz'ur ezoi derech yeshara sheyavur lo adam." Go out and look what would be the right path for each one of you, and come back with something serious, because it's all about our life experience. If there's no room for our life experience in the Torah of the Bet Midrash and in the Torah and Tefila of the Shul, then there's a disconnection between life and Torah, between life and Tefillah, between life and community, and between life and me. And it's all about bringing together those things and working together. And the second thing I want to say, as a rabbi, I did a decision many years ago that I don't speak about Parashat Shavua. I don't speak about the portion, because I understood that speaking about the portion gives this fake feeling that you can disconnect yourself from reality, even if you connect it to reality. And there's some kind of a pace there that you can go back to, disregarding the fact that we have to work all the time. And one of the things I do is every year we take a topic and we work. Last year the topic was mitzvot. The year before the topic was midot virtues. And we went with Sefer Aleph Bet, by the way, every Shabbat, and we spoke about a different virtue, and I gave myself and everyone a mission. And people had notebooks at the beginning of the year on Yom Kippur, and each one of them had the notebook for himself or herself throughout the week, and people were invited to have chavrutot. And we all worked on our midot. And I told them where I had mistakes and where I learned things. We all have to work. And it's not that I disregard Parashat Shavua, the portions at all, but there has to be a connection between things. And this year, we work about our parents and our grandparents. We call it Zeh Sefer Toldot Adam. And we speak about all the inheritances that we received from our parents, which we sometimes don't even notice, and things that we have to work on. We have to work on. So for me, shul, community, Bet Midrash have to be the place, hamakom, in which we experience and exercise our faith in our freedom and in our ability to choose who we want to be. It has to be sincere. Torah has to be connected to life. We have to be able to admit when we achieved something and when we erred and made mistakes. And we have to speak in the language of Torah because it elevates us and reminds us where we want to get to, but we have to speak the Aleph Bet of our neshama to be reminded that this is a personal story. And the last thing I want to say is that the fact that this happens with witnesses in a community who are either my friend Rav Dani or Rav Sarah or you as people I learn with, you are my witnesses to the journey that I do. You are my edim. And I want to walk this path, not doing it for myself, because this also is not Derech Eretz, but knowing that we are witnesses of each other. And this is Kedusha. This is the essence of Kedusha. Kedusha, the pivot, the pillar of Kedusha, which we say, is when we say, V'notnim be'ava reshut ze lazeh. We have to give with love, permission to each other, with mercy and love. We have to give permission to each other to grow spiritually. Otherwise, we will always be stuck, and we will always be in a facade of a Torah that is not Etz HaChaim. It's Etz HaDat.
Years ago, when I became a community rabbi, I asked a friend who was a rabbi, what am I supposed to do? So he said, I want to define your role for you. When you walk down the street and you ask somebody how they're doing, they're going to answer you sincerely. And that's what you need to be ready for. I think of community and Derech Eretz many times. As a rabbi, you're always thinking, what's in service of what? Am I saying hello to somebody walking in the street because I want them to come to shul on Shabbat? Or am I trying to give a good sermon or a good shiur class at shul on Shabbat to these people because I want them to say hello to me in the street? And community is a kli machzik bracha. It's a vessel holding goodliness and a bracha for a community. That's where Derech Eretz happens. But I was thinking of a contradiction because of what you said, our freedom to be ourselves, and where community might contradict that. Community can be a wonderful, loving place for us to try out things, to make mistakes, to grow, to change, to be the best version of ourselves that we can be. Sometimes it's the exact opposite. Sometimes it's what's holding us there. I was a teacher in high school. I had a kid, such a wonderful kid, was almost thrown out of school. I had a discussion with him every week. And one day I said, listen, Yair, you have to change. You know I love you. They're not going to keep you here. He said, okay. Walked in the next day. First 5 minutes, says nothing. He's sitting there. He has a notebook for the first time in history. 10 minutes go by. I see all his remarks passing through his head and he's not saying a thing. When 15 minutes went by, he was still okay. But everybody around him was starting to say, hey, Yair, what's happening? You've become a good student. Ma kara? That he couldn't take. And he grew back to be the same old Yair. I want to share with you, because I think you have a very important role, 1 minute of our life as Jews. It's called Kol Nidrei. we do two very important things. We get up as a community, and we vow to be a community that allows people to change and to grow. And our most important moment maybe in the Jewish year as Jews, we want to say to each other, you can change. We want to annul all your vows. We know what you were yesterday, but we know you can be something else tomorrow. And we're here not to remember who you were, not to keep you in the same place. We're here as witnesses, as friends, as congregants, as followers, as family, to say to each other, Kol nidrei, you can put them aside. Kol nidrei ve'esarei ve'charamei, you can change, you can be different. We want to be part of your journey. We don't want to be the people holding you back. We'll start out by saying, Anu matirim leitpalel im ha'avaryanim. We're here to allow all of us to daven, to pray, to stand before God with people who have gone wrong. So we say those two important things every year in Kol Nidrei. We say we want to be here with you if you've gone astray. And we want to be here for you because we want to be here as witnesses not to what was but to what can be. Witnesses to your ability to change and to grow. And if you're talking about this past week and as leaders of community, as lay people, I want to speak now as a rabbi. I want to help you be there for your rabbis. They're always there saying Kol Nidrei for other people. Think a congregation is there to say Kol Nidrei to their rabbi. Rabbis can't change. There's so many eyes watching them. Everybody knows what they wore yesterday. I'm saying this because I only have 3 shirts. I got up this morning and said, wait, when I spoke to the board, what was I wearing? Nachon? We don't have too many outfits, and we have so many people watching us. Be the eyes for your leaders of their community, for your rabbis. Say Kol Nidrei for them every day. Be the community that allows everybody, including the rabbi, everybody to say, okay, we're putting it aside, and our tomorrow will be different than what it was yesterday. That's Derech Eretz. That's the basic path of Musar.
So I want to open now for conversation. Both questions and comments are very welcome. It will be helpful to us all if you are clear whether you are asking a question or making a comment. And also in service of having as much conversation as possible to keep your question or your comment as succinct as possible. I've asked the panelists that each one only one will respond to each question. So if you have a particular panelist that you'd like to respond, also to share that. I'm going to take 3 questions and then we'll answer.
Well, first of all, thank you so much for being here. I was wondering if either of you could speak to the responsibility of leading and counseling a spiritual community while, as Tamar said, constantly working on yourself internally. How do you maintain that constant work on yourself while you are also the leader of the community and other people are looking to you as leaders and counselors?
My question is Rabbi Elad Appelbaum. So you spoke quite a bit about mitzvot ben Adam Makom and ben Adam Chavaro. Do you assign any particular spiritual meaning or significance to the fact that in general one says a bracha for a mitzvah ben Adam Makom and not ben Adam Chavaro?
You used the word algorithm at one point, and what it prompted me was to envision, what if a robot were created and programmed with all of the mitzvot and all of the teachings that we learned today? What would that output look like? And then if there were a second robot created with those same programs, would that output be the same as the
Great. So Dani, to speak a little about how to balance your own avoda, your own inner work, with the work of leading others. And Tamar to speak about why we don't have brachot when we have mitzvot between people, and what would a mitzvah robot look like. I think it's a brilliant question.
There's a beautiful saying, Kol Yisrael arevim ze bazeh. We're all one people. By the way, that goes to halacha. If somebody, why can I say a blessing for somebody else? If I've made kiddush and Tamar hasn't, why can I say kiddush for her? Because if she hasn't fulfilled the mitzvah, part of me hasn't fulfilled the mitzvah. That's all to explain why I want to answer Tamar's question and on my own. No, I'm saying, no, I want to speak about responsibility. I just thought about brachot. The saying we say every morning about Derech Eretz is Elu dvarim she'en lahem shiur. These are things that also you can't quantify, and you can't teach. And I think a blessing is for something we can hold in our hands. And but I want to relate to the responsibility. I want to say it's very difficult. I teach couples many times. I work with couples before marriage and after marriage. And what do you do when you're supposed to discuss tikshoret? Good communication. And you've just had a fight. And you're not really talking to each other. It helps a lot of time. You can say, sorry, I need to go, I need to discuss communication. And then by the time you're back, sometimes you've forgotten what you fought about. So it's helpful. But it's also a terrible feeling to get up in front of the people and talk about something that you know you're lacking. I just want to say that it goes back to what we were talking about earlier, that teaching Derech Eretz is working on your own Derech Eretz. And many times I'll open with a couple or with students saying where I came from. It's not always a good idea to share everything, but you can share a lot. And I think, again, that's part of your teaching. But that doesn't answer your question fully, because I just want to say that there are points where it's just difficult and I don't have an answer. Where you're getting up and speaking in front of a congregation or trying to teach something which you know you're struggling with, and it's just very difficult. And you have to put it aside and say, I have a different role at this moment, and I can't even use my struggle as a teaching at this point. I just have to put it aside for a second and try and teach and get back to what I'm struggling with.
I just want to say what a beautiful meeting this is, and how precious your questions are. Mamash, kilo, if I could, this is where I would want to now stay and just enlarge it with more and more people and partners, because this is the essence of life. Regarding brachot, I want to say that brachot to me are an exercise to tefila. So bracha is a form of exercising language, Jewish spiritual language. You know, there's the Aleph, Beit, and the Hebrew, and reviving of Hebrew, and going to the supermarket and say lachmaniya. That's one ability of our Hebrewness. But their Jewishness is not only achieving the ability to speak, but it's a grammar. It's a grammar of how I want to speak in this world. And so for me, bracha is exercising my ability to use this grammar that says it is because of you, it is thanks to you, it is grace to you. I think you say in English, I'm not sure. Grâce à, maybe in French you say that. It is thanks to you that I am now able to eat an apple from the tree. It is thanks to you that I am now able to perform the lighting of light in this world. This exercises me to do that with every human being and every creature in the world. This is a core exercise that Hashem, with the heavenly generosity enables us to practice every day the language of gratitude and acknowledging the zulat, the person next to us, as our teacher, but not in order to include God and disclude all the others. On the contrary, the idea is that through every blessing of Ben Adam Lamakom, I walk around the world and do it with you and with every person next to me and with the cat that I saw this morning and the tree that I saw this morning. I do it all the time. This is called L'Shem Yichud. L'Shem Yichud is a form in which you go and you say, to the honor of a world that has so many of us, why am I not here alone? It would have been much easier. Nachon? But it's not. This is not what I want. It is all of us. And everything we don't yet know of the fullness and the vastness of all the possibilities of God through our faces, through our characters, we all hold that and not even that together. There's more. So only when we acknowledge each other, notnim be'ava reshut le'zeh lazeh, only when we do that, we recreate oneness out of the multiple voices and the panoply of all these possibilities. So what I do in Bracha Ben Adam Lamakom is that I received the generosity of Hashem to exercise a language of gratitude, only to afterwards walk outside the world and exercise this with every person I see and understand that he is not my enemy. We're not fighting for food or for wealth or for whatever it is. On the contrary, I bless him that he's here because only now I see another voice of God, another sight of God, when I understand that we complete each other, that we are one. So I think that the training of Tefila and the training of Hashem, and that is why I think we have so many words in Tefillah. I know that we always complain that we have so many words. But one of the beauties of Tefillah is that we see it through the eyes of Avraham Avinu, and through the eyes of Yitzchak Avinu, and through the eyes of Sarah, Rivka, Rachel, Leah, and the poor, and bracha for this, and bracha for that. In Shmona Esrei, we have so many perspectives. It trains us to hold all these perspectives and to see that all of them are one. And I want to vouch and be a witness to all of them, not for people to be a witness for me, but most of my life I want to be the witness for God, that everything here is one. And regarding the second question, this is the answer to the second question. Chas v'chalila, chas v'shalom, that we were born perfect. God forbid that we were a robot. This is the essence of life. We received a life in order to love Hashem. I think we are loved by Hashem, loved enough to be put in this world with all the things that we love and hate and are happy about and are sorrowful about. All these things. And the big mitzvah of us is to be happy and to love Hashem and to be happy that we received this life and to rejoice and to see in everything another reflection of this ability to be. All this thing is one. So how could I do it if I saw it from the beginning or if I was perfect from the beginning? It has no meaning. Bichlal, I think, when I was young, for a very long time, and until today I fight it, I loved the world of lechatchila. Lechatchila means it has to be that way, and from the beginning I want it to be that way. But bnei Adam, human beings, are not lechatchila. We live in a world of diavad. We live in a world the way it is, and we grow from the aretz, from the earth, we grow to the shamayim. We grow, literally. We start horizontal, how do you say that? Horizontal, nachon? And then we just start to grow slowly. And we think we finished growing when we're 16 and we're 1.62 meters. But that's only the beginning. We need to grow from there all the time. That's Sulam Yaakov, that's the ladder of Jacob. And we just try to grow and go. And it's not us who are going to grow. They say about Adam Arishon, the ancestors say that he was huge. But we don't want to be huge. We just want a ladder. And we want to help each other on the ladder. And the ladder is put by Hashem. And it has angels going up and down. And the angels are you. And the angels is Dani and Sarah. And because of these angels, I will go up. And I will go down. And when I go down, I will say so. And I will go up again. Someone will give me a hand. So that's what we do. And chas v'chalila, chas v'shalom, we don't want to be robots. And that's what I love, 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 the beginning of the day when we say Birkot HaShachar. We say Birkot HaShachar to say, thank you that you didn't make me a robot. Thank you that I'm a human being. Thank you that I need to open my eyes. I need to open them. Thank you that I need to put on shoes and walk in this world that has so many stones. I want to walk in it. I want to be that person. I want to live. I trust you. You trust me. I trust you. You love me. I love you. ואהבת את השם אלוהיך. And I will love you too. How will I love you? Through every creature. Through taming myself to be worthy of meeting every creature.
I'm going to take 2 more questions to get... So this side of the room gets a chance. 1 and 2.
So I just want to share one of my favorite quotes from a rabbi, from Rabbi Salanter, and I feel a personal connection with him because all my whole grandparents came from Sudan. And so what Rabbi Salanter says, and I think this really summarizes the relationship between what we're talking about this week and spirituality. He said that a pious Jew does not think about his own stomach and other people's souls. He thinks about other people's stomach and his own soul.
יפה מאוד, תודה. Thank you.
All this week we've been talking about Derech Eretz, and we've been characterizing it in part as conversation. And it's been very much impressed upon the importance of being present and listening. And I think you spoke so beautifully about the words. We are people of many, many words. And I was struck by the fact this week that I've only heard the word meditation mentioned once, and that was in an Eastern meaning. I was wondering if we could hear from either of you, both of you, about whether or not meditation is important, how you find that. I was introduced to Jewish meditation about 27 years ago, and it becomes only never so much more important. I think of Tefila as me talking to God, but that in meditation, focusing on the breath in the Hashem that breathes my body, I take a moment and listen as appropriate.
Thank you. Beautiful. Final question? Is there anyone else with a burning question? Okay.
I was just wondering if you could talk a little more about some of the tension between realizing it's not all about you, but at the same time concentrating so hard on correcting your flaws.
Great. So we have 2 questions, and each of you to relate to one of them. One, the question about meditation, and maybe more broadly, which specific practices you find the most useful. And the other, the question of how you balance such a self-focused practice, not moving into the world of arrogance and taking up too much space.
I'll relate to your question. I think there's a lot more to Derech Eretz than words and then saying and teaching. Sometimes we can do Derech Eretz with touching people. We can do Derech Eretz with listening. We can do it by watching them. I have two 2-year-olds. They just started walking on their own to Gan. And the first day was okay because they walk and they look back. And then there's the point where they walk and they don't look back. Chutzpah. But sometimes I think allowing people to grow is a glance. They're not looking back because they know I'm watching them. And we can grow people by words, we can grow people by observing them, by being witness. I don't have the privilege of practicing meditation enough. But what came to mind when you were talking is that we need to do much more listening than speaking. I was mentioning the first Mishnah in Brachot. It starts out with Shema Yisrael. When you perform your first mitzvah of your adult life at your bat mitzvah or bar mitzvah, the evening before you become, the first thing you're going to be reciting is Shema. And the first word somebody's going to tell you is listen. I have a very beloved teacher. When he was teaching our teacher's course, he said, the teacher's bituach, how do you say bituach? Insurance. You're paid 100% for teacher's insurance if you lose your voice, because you can't teach anymore. He said the insurance should be changed. It's if you lose your hearing, because the teacher is there to listen. And I think our work, before we say Shema, we're quiet for a second, because we subside our voices so we can listen. And I do this so much with couples and with myself in couple life. Try to teach ourselves that it's much more important to listen to what the other is saying than to be speaking. So in many ways, I think that's a lot of what meditation is trying to do, to put us on the listening side. And it's a very strong part, I think, of Derech Eretz and how we conduct ourselves in the world.
I just want to say that I completely relate to what Dani said now. For me, there are two places of meditation, and it's Shema and Amidah. And this also is an answer to your question. I think Amidah is Jewish meditation, and I think it's different. It's very much like the Eastern one and different from the Eastern one. This is the Jewish meditation, which says you have to be silent and listen, but you also have to stand. And I think there's something very Jewish about it. Rav Shimshon Raphael Hirsch, that Dani before cited about the Etz HaChaim and Etz HaDat. So he says that Amidah is the Jewish form of saying Hineni. Here I am. I am here to the world as you have created it, to the people in my community as they are, not unnoticing it, absorbing it, standing with it, listening to it, and being devoted to it. And I think devotion is a very, very, the insurance of the ego is to be devoted to something that is outside you. But you have to have enough of an ego to be devoted. And I think this is the essence of Amidah. And so for me, I always see Shema as a preparation for Amidah. Shema, and I, by the way, want to tell you that I'm very thankful for your question about meditation, because I meditate for many, many years. In both ways, in the Eastern way of sitting and in the Jewish way. And I want to say, this is an opportunity for me to say something about your question. I do not think that Jewish tradition, like a soul does not have the answer to everything, Jewish tradition does not have the key to holiness, not by itself. We hold the keys to holiness together. Eastern tradition holds very important keys, not less important than ours, and that's why I'm very happy that you brought it in. Meditation has much place because we Jews are very uncomfortable about reality. And we think either about the past or about the future, and we're never happy with the present. And I think Eastern, the keys of Eastern worlds to holiness are to give us the ability and the patience and enough love to sit in meditation in this world as it is, in this present as it is. And we have much to learn from it. And we have to say it as part of our admitting that we need all these things. And together with that, I feel that we need to also have an ego as Jews, not only as a private person, and to stand up in devotion and to say we have something to give to the world. A meditation that starts by sitting and then ends standing up and declaring to the world with quietude, which is so important. Hinenu. We are here together.
So I want to speak personally because I asked you to speak personally. And to say that our learning together over the past week and a half has been uplifting and intellectually challenging, but it has also been at moments deeply painful because it has challenged us to confront the ways in which we fail ethically and the ways in which our societies fail ethically. So in that context, I wondered how we would leave this Beit Midrash and go back to the broken world. And so I think it is a really beautiful and appropriate gift that this is the last piece of our conversation, that you've given us so much chizuk, so much strength, and so much bracha, so much blessing, and so much beauty and inspiration as we take the dangerous and exciting and important steps from this community of learning out into the world where we do the work. So I thank you all for being in this conversation, and I especially thank my rabbis and my teachers, Dani and Tamar. My omek lev, thank you so much.